My name is Eric, and this is my Jesus story. I was born into what I think is a dual false religion home. I have a Mormon parent to this day and a Catholic parent to this day. And I grew up in the Mormon church my entire life, for the most part, until I was 18. And those points in life were really hard for me. I felt like my entire life was a lie. From age 7 or 8, I just felt like I was lied to my entire life. I always had fights with my parents that I was adopted, and not just not just little fights like, hey, I'm adopted, but for real legit ones. Like, I don't belong here. Something's wrong here. I shouldn't be here. This doesn't feel right to me. And I was extremely abusive. I abused all of my entire family, my siblings, friends, everyone that I'd ever come in contact with for the majority of my life, for the beginning. And it was pretty hard. I mean, holding that now. But I still have a sibling that won't talk to me to this day because of the way I used to act and things I used to do. I'm surprised that the rest of my siblings talk to me and my nieces and nephews, but I'm extremely grateful for that. Anyway, so I went to the Mormon high school from 8th grade to 12th grade, and it was it was a big struggle. I remember going on the first day, and they asked me if I wanted to be there, and my staunch answer was no. I don't want to be here. Something's wrong here. I don't belong here. I don't know what it is, but I just know it's not for me. And so when school ended for me, I graduated in '97, and I quit going to church, period. Whatever you want to call church. I quit going to my kind of church at the time, period. And I just, I never went back till I was almost 27. So I took almost 20 years off from church, or 10 years off from church, I guess that would be. So in 1999, I attempted to take my own life, and I have the scars to prove it. So that was, it was just the lie that I felt like I was into. It just led to, extreme depression and resentment. I was just angry all the time, and I took it on everybody, everyone. It was really rough. And I feel horrible, for how I treated people, to this day. Those years, those missing years, or whatever you want to call them, between getting out of high school and not going to any church, any religion whatsoever, until about 27, I had broken all 10 commandments in between that time. And I could sit here and tell you about those things. I would rather not, because I'm not proud of the time in my life, but if it's something that you need to talk about, someone else needs to talk about, I'm 100% willing to talk about it. But it's a lot of heavy stuff, that I did or was a part of or did to others. It's a lot of heavy stuff in there. So I'd rather move on to when I met Jesus. But I met him. I was working with some people, and actually, let me back up. When I met Jesus, he had always been chasing me, always following me. He had never left my side through that whole time of struggles and stuff. I used to drive all the time just to be alone. I would do weekend trips to Michigan, and I lived here in the Kansas City area, so I was 10, 12 hours in the car by myself just on a weekend, just on a 2-day, 3-day trip, just to be alone, because that was the safest place for me and everyone else, just to keep everyone away from me, right? So I wasn't abusive to anybody. And anyway, so I just drove alone, and on the trips, use the radio dial and find Christian stations in a lot of places. I just couldn't get any other station but Christian stations. It happened all the time to me in Indiana for some reason. And so it was just extremely soothing. It was I felt at peace for like, I had not felt peace in my life since, age 7 or 8. And finally I felt peace for some reason from this music. So I would just listen and drive. That's, for hours. I would just listen and drive. And when I got out of the range of that radio station, I would find another one, and I would try to find Christian music at that point once I knew that it brought me something different. And so I would do that. Finally, about 2007, I could finally get a Christian radio station at my house. And so once I found that radio would never turn off. I just left it on all the time because, once again, it brought me peace. I didn't know anything else. 2008, a Bible was left in front of a person's doorstep that I had known at the time. Horrible relationship. But I picked up the Bible, took it in, and hey, this must be for you. And they turn around with the same remark. Well, actually, that must be for you. It's like, well, maybe it is. Can I have it? So I took it and I started reading it every day. I would try to read that thing every day, but I understand now that you need the Holy Spirit in your life in order to understand those words, because for the first few years, like, it was literally black ink on a white page just splotched on there, and it just made no sense to me at all, and I was out there trying to read it every day after work and stuff. I tried, and it just made no sense to me at all. So that was 2008-ish, and 2009, a person had told me to go check out a church. They said that for some reason I reminded them of the pastor reminded them of me. Knowing my story, how could that be possible? I have no clue. So anyways, I went to check out this church. I was so desperate, to be different, to change my life. And so I went. So I went to everything that church offered. I went on Wednesdays, on Fridays, on Saturdays if they had something. I went every single day. And they were teaching on, when I first showed up, they were teaching from Psalm 23. And there's a book that a shepherd looks at Psalm 23. And they were kind of going over that with the class. And that is when, that's when I met God for the first time for real. Or when I realized he was there. And not what I had been told my whole life. So it was amazing. It was an amazing moment. I was walking through, I was in my dad's house alone, and I was going into the kitchen to make dinner, and I was going from the hall into the kitchen, turning the corner, and the realization of the Holy Spirit speaking to me on the inside, whatever it was. But the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. All of a sudden, was realer than anything to me. Like, I understood that with God in my life, I would not want anything else. And I had, prior to that, I had made everything else my God. Money was my God. Possessions were my God. Controlling people was my God. Abusing people was my God. You name it, it was my God. Going to bars was my God. It was just So that was amazing experience, and just having that realization of having the Holy Spirit in my life for a change. And so finally, those black words on that white page actually made sense. Like, they started to, I don't know, it was like reading any other book finally. It was amazing, 2 years later, and here I am, reading or a year later, I guess, but reading the exact same book that I'd been, given, and it finally started making sense to me. So I met I did a discipleship program in 2012. This pastor at this church had invited me to this program, and I thought he was foolish for inviting me to a discipleship program, because I'm just like, dude, you have no clue who I am. You don't know me from anybody, and I'm the last guy you want in your class with you. And to defile these other guys that you're gonna have with you, you don't want me in there. And he kept pushing me, pressing me, not pushing me, but it was about 2 months. Every single time he saw me, hey, I really want you in my program. I really want you to show up. I really want you to be there. And I showed up. I was there. And, like Dennis said, you have to put in the work, right? And that's true. And so every single Sunday, for an entire year, I was at that church at 7 a.m. in that class for an hour. And I read my Bible, we had our Bible reading plan, read it every single day for a year. And we read 5 other leadership books within that. And I hated reading. But I prayed God just to change my life, whatever way that looked. And this is the way that it looked. So I read, anyways, I did nothing but read that entire year, which was awesome because it kept me safe and it kept others safe. So I did nothing but sit in, this was my spot. Maybe your spot's different, but my spot was in my bathroom with my back up against the tub. I had like a pillow between my back and the tub. And so for an entire year, I spent all my time in the bathroom after work just reading. I did nothing but read. But I'm grateful. Like I said, it kept everybody safe and it changed my life. It really did. It changed my life forever. So I'm very grateful. That was 2012. So here I am, I don't know, 11, 10 years as a Christian? My walk's pretty new to me, but I love it. Since then, I have had the opportunity to lead a youth group, which has been amazing experience. Being discipled and then teaching others. I just couldn't think of anything better that you could do to further your walk with God. And so I still am great friends with those people today, with the guys I did the group with, the discipleship group with. And the youth group kids have moved on to other churches and stuff because I ran it mainly online. And I told them, of course, when you find friends in another group and stuff, please go do that. Because that relationship is extremely important to me. But within that time, I was alone, obviously, right? Spending a year alone on your bathroom floor. I was alone, and I finally started to, pray to God to bring me somebody else into my life. And so I started praying for a wife, and because my relationships before that had been train wrecks and horrible and things you can imagine, but I started praying for a wife, and that was an amazing experience in itself. So I prayed for 2 solid years for a wife, and man, I spent once again a lot of time on the bathroom floor. This time turned and kneeling on the tub, But it took a solid year and a half for God to show me, to teach me, to let me know that I'm not in control, and that my list of what I want in a wife doesn't matter to Him, or maybe it matters to Him, but it shouldn't matter to me. He let me know that what should matter to me is His will and following Him. And so that's where He led me over that year and a half of praying for a wife. And so once, that year and a half went from my list, and my list dwindled. Each time I prayed for a little bit less and a little bit less of my list, and a little bit more of just your will be done, whatever that looks like, and a little bit less of my list and a little bit more of your will. And finally, a year and a half later, I'm just your will only. Whatever that looks like, let's do it. And so, a year and a half, right? So here we are. This last 6-month portion of that prayer went from just your will only, and that's where I finally met my wife. Yeah, so after praying that year and a half, for my will be done and my list be done, and God had changed my heart. Finally in the last 6 months, I was praying for His will to be done, and I had the only thing left, on my list per se, which was really His list, was that I just wanted a woman that loved God more than she loved me. And sure enough, that's what He blessed me with. He gave me, He gave me this girl who, has her own Jesus story to tell. But man, it's been an amazing journey with her, and we are closing in on 7 years, and I wouldn't trade them for anything. They've been I mean, you know my pre-story, so you know that these have been the best years of my life. No doubt about it. So in Luke 7, Jesus goes to a house of a Pharisee to have, goes to a Pharisee's house to have dinner, and a woman shows up with an alabaster jar, and she breaks it, anoints his feet, and she washes his feet with her tears, and cleans his Jesus' feet with her hair, right? And he's talking to Simon. Woo! And he's talking to Simon after that, and he just says, and he gives Simon a parable of, there's two guys. One's forgiven of 5 talents, and one's forgiven of 7 or 10 it is or something. I'll just read it. How's that? So, and Jesus said, so he's talking to Simon, and he said unto, and Jesus answering said unto him, I'm going to read it this way. And Jesus answering said unto him, I have somewhat to say unto thee. And he saith, Master, say on. Jesus says, and there was a certain creditor which had 2 debtors. The one owed 500 pence, and the other 50. And when they had nothing to pay, he frankly forgave them both. Tell me therefore, which of them will love him the most? And Simon answered and said, I suppose that he to whom he forgave the most. And Jesus said unto him, Thou hast judged rightly. I love him the most. Because I've forgiven the most. Because I've been forgiven the most. No doubt about it.